Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Crypto Market Charts. Is our creative name for this show that I do here as a representative of Crypto Traders Arena. Hey, everyone that's in the YouTube chat. Welcome. See some people waiting. Thanks for joining in. And this week, I am not on mute right now. It looks like I'm streaming on YouTube and my mic's on. So if there's any issues, please let me know. Last week, I talked for like 8 minutes or something without my mic on. Which yeah, what can you do? I'm just sort of self-producing this thing here, just so if I am not laser focused, I can easily make those kind of mistakes. So but here we are, back for another show. Probably get into some altcoins and maybe talk about the broader market, and certainly any requests that anybody has, throw them in the chat. We'll look at some of your guys' names. I'd love to see some new things that I'm not aware of. Would be awesome. In fact, Carol told me about a couple names yesterday that I put on my list. And what else can I say? We've just been trading away. We were in the New York session earlier today, kind of focusing on my scalping plan, but also the room was mostly trading crypto, it looks like, as usual. And I think on Tuesdays, well, not, I don't think, on Tuesdays we have our New York session open to the public. So anybody that's a member of our Discord community on the free side can join us for that. And it usually goes for a couple hours. Starts half an hour before the New York Open and then goes until about an hour and a half after that. So yeah, 2-hour session every day, Monday through Friday, if you are a premium member. And then Tuesdays is, anybody from our Discord room can pop in and get a feel for what we do on the daily basis. Typically, we're focused on trading setups. Our focus is on working our trading plans every day, trying to stay consistent and keep our heads on straight. And so, that session is a good way for all of us to just sort of stay on the same page and share some ideas and take some trades and just kind of do our thing. And the downtime, we usually just fuck around a little bit, joke around when there's nothing that exciting going on, which unfortunately with trading, can be often. Actually, a lot of this game, we're just kind of, either you're waiting for a trade and sitting on your hands, or you're in a trade and sitting on your hands, trying not to fuck it up. So it's always good to have like some things. I like to work on music and stuff, so sometimes I'll sit here just playing guitar or like playing with some recordings, or just stuff to kind of bide the time if I'm in a trade and I don't want to go and meddle with it too much, because of course one of the worst things you can do is meddle with the trade. Again, like I said, we focus on setups and trading setups, and usually if you have a setup that you're working from and a plan you're working from, hopefully there's some systems put in place for you to keep you from making emotional decisions, because certainly especially when you get into lower time frame trading, emotional decisions can really sort of booger your trades, because even just moving your stop a little bit can have a bad impact. So anyway, that's how we do it every Monday through Friday in the New York session. And then also on Tuesdays, of course, I do this show here now at 2 o'clock, or 20 UTC, 2 o'clock my time, New York close. So just right when the stock market closes every Tuesday. And then also on Tuesdays, Stefan does a live scalping session for the London session. So London session's in the middle of the night for me here in North America, but a huge part of our community is on the other side of the globe, so works out well for them. But he's scalping every Tuesday for that session. And of course they do that too every day, Monday through Friday, for our VIP group. We basically have a couple groups going on. Our VIP group are working directly with Stefan and Paul to take, everybody's basically taking the same trades. And our premium room's just a bunch of traders that are all kind of sharing ideas. And then our free room is just sort of our anything goes in there. We kind of focus a little bit more on zoomed out weekly chart kind of stuff. A lot of stuff I talk about sort of in our free room, not as much sharing new setup ideas for lower time frame, but kind of focus more on just kind of like the bigger picture. And of course, I think everybody should have an altcoin investment plan. If you're if you're interested in crypto at all, then I think you should at least have some money set aside to invest in the sort of bigger picture in crypto, because these sort of cycles that crypto has been on produce some pretty big bull markets if you're willing to step in at times like now or recently. And I think in the future there's still going to be another buy opportunity here, but we'll get into that in a moment. So, you know, even for the people in our group who are trading setups and working on their trading plans and you know, showing up every day and trading lower time frames, I think, and they all know this, I think, for the most part, but I think it's in their best interest to at least throw a little bit of money at these longer term ideas, because it doesn't take a huge amount of money to you know, to make some good money in a bull run. And so the whole point of the whole investing idea is, right, we're just trying to take a relatively small risk and then we're looking for like exponential reward. We're not really just trying to sell everything on 20% gains. We're looking for huge moves. And sure enough, there's been some pretty huge moves lately. So if anybody was paying attention over the last, like, you know, month ago or so, hopefully you guys are long and enjoying some of these rallies that are currently happening in crypto. I think we're certainly in some sort of, I like to say mini alt season, at least, because I don't think we're in the real bull market, but we certainly are in a little alt season at the moment. Yeah, lots of doubles being banged out and even double doubles. And I don't know. So I think, you know, well, if you're watching the show, hopefully that interests you, at least the whole investment thing. And then, of course, if you want to, on Sundays, Paul and I actually work this crypto weekly review plan. You know, we did episode 47 here last Sunday. So every Sunday we're actually working a altcoin investment plan where we're going through the levels and, you know, working our bids and sells and basically just tracking all that in our plan and sharing that with anybody that's interested. So you can always watch that. We've, you know, we started the first week of the year, and we've made it every Sunday till now, and we're planning on doing that show all the way up into the bull euphoria that will come at some point. We don't know when exactly, but I suppose the sooner it comes, the sooner we might get off the hook of making that show. I'm just kidding. But we are going to ride that show all the way into whatever bull market is presented to us in the next couple of years. Hopefully it'll be next year, sort of post Bitcoin halving. That's the sort of general plan. Of course, there's like bigger sort of macro conditions that you know do set a slightly different scenario this time around than the last two crypto cycles. Of course, the last two, and you could even go back before that, but I only have experience in the last two. But you know, starting in end of 2016 is when I first really got interested in trading per se. But of course, 2017 was an epic bull run, heading up into the Bitcoin 20K top. And then, of course, the next cycle after that was also a pretty epic bull run. And I just, you know, it just kind of popped in my mind to say right now that, you know, there is a difference between now and then in the sense that the macro conditions are a little different. Don't know what that's going to do to impact the next bull run, but you know, the reality is those, you know, crypto itself has only enjoyed a lower interest rate environment or interest rates falling towards zero basically the whole time crypto has been around. And so now that's kind of it's definitely not the case now. So we're actually heading into like a rising interest rate environment. So I don't know how that actually, you know, that's not typically great for risk on, you know, like the stock market loves low interest rates. It's like a lot of free money to just juice the market with. And that free money was juicing the market hard, you know, over the last quite a while, really, since well before I was trading. But especially, you know, especially in the COVID environment, but also in the cycle before. And so we'll just see. So it's just worth noting that there is a slight difference in the macro conditions of well, not a slight difference, a pretty epic difference, I'd say, but we'll just see how that plays out. I mean, if my gut tells me that doesn't, I mean, first of all, that doesn't mean there can't be a bull market. I mean, hell, there's a bull market going on right now. And if you zoom in enough, of course, there's things that are up massively in crypto. And Bitcoin itself, I mean, to be fair, is obviously more than doubled off the bottom. Um, so, I think there will be some sort of bull run. We'll just have to see how much gas it has in it. But I like to structure my plan on being able to profit off of these moves without thinking about like new highs, for example. Like, can we still make money if Bitcoin never makes a new high again? I think so, probably plenty of money. So it's all about your perspective, like all things in trading. So I kind of sometimes I think, well, maybe the next bull run will just be a little more muted, and then maybe we just get back to like 50% levels of the entire range and stuff. But hell, that's a pretty big move. And so, I mean, if all things, if this Bitcoin halving cycle plays out again, which it has played out 3 times in a row now, basically the same kind of thing, which maybe we can look at here in a minute. I always like to pull out my Bitcoin halving chart, but if all things stay the same, then I'd say everything's just going along as planned. We've talked about this whole year as being like an accumulation bottoming phase. We went through this brutal 2-year long bear market. And at some point that bear market turned into like every bounce getting sold off to a new low to like bumping along the bottom and not so aggressively making new lows. And then we started going sideways for a while. And of course, at the beginning of the year, we had one of these mini alt seasons. Right at the beginning of the year, prices bottomed right into the end of last year. And for the first quarter, there was like same kind of scenario as now. Lots of banging off of doubles, lots of names popping, but not every name in the space, but like quite a lot of names uppy. And then sure enough, things had to come back down to the bottom of the range, give another buy opportunity. And now we're seeing the results of that. And so it's a question here now. So anyway, backing up just a bit, it means, we basically have entered into this year-long bottoming, we've been in a bottoming phase for most of the year, all of the year, really. The painful, always down bear market's pretty far behind us now, which is a good news. And I think a lot of the people that were going to get shaken out from last cycle are shaken out. I don't know if there's too many people holding on, that were top buyers from last cycle, for example. They're all gone, which is unfortunately kind of what has to happen to put in the new bottom. And so, yeah, everything seems to be bumping along. We're just, going along as planned. This was accumulation year. We've said it all year. In fact, we based this whole Crypto Weekly Review show off of that idea that we're in a bottoming phase. And we were just going to sort of step in and start buying things at the bottom of the range and getting prepared to hold that stuff into the next bull. And that's exactly what we're doing. And so we're, the good news is we're way farther along in in this than we were a year ago. So like, I was much more conservative a year ago in terms of like being, aggressively buying altcoins, for example. And now I can just feel myself getting more and more aggressive. Like, so yeah, now I'm starting to see the weekly W's that I talked about all year. I'm starting to see those in a lot of coins, and a lot of the ones that have run. If you didn't buy that W, I do think that a pullback into the W levels, into just sort of structural bottoms, is probably ahead of us. So there'll be another chance to kind of load up there. I could be wrong, but that's just sort of what I generally think is going to happen. We still do have like sort of tax loss selling kind of into the end of the year kind of thing to face, and maybe that creates a little bit of a rollover here and gives us that opportunity. So I suppose heading into the end of the year, it's like we're after Thanksgiving now. We just finished the Thanksgiving holiday last week, and the market's been the crypto market's been pretty positive through all of that. And so far, even Bitcoin right now is still looking relatively strong. Looking pretty strong, really, just getting up into kind of nosebleedy levels. But, can we see some sort of pullback here in the next month and a half? Seems likely. And remember the whole buy when it snows idea. Typically it's not uncommon to try to, if you're trying to be like a smart money type of person and then you're looking to buy cheap prices, then the end of the year like is certainly a good time to do that, especially like in the stock market. I think historically you could probably go back and look at the end of the year in the stock market, and there's probably been opportunities into the end of the year a lot of the time, or at least sell-offs as far as taxless selling goes. um so anyway, point I'm trying to make here is, so we're basically at a place now where there's, so there's a couple options to sort of weigh in your mind, I suppose, if you're trying to do this. I mean, hopefully you're already somewhat long, but if you're not, it's tricky to go chase the markets up at these levels. But we basically are, there's always the possibility that the bull market actually has started, and these weekly W's that are popping off right now, and the uppiness in altcoins, maybe this is the beginning of that bull run. Even if that's true, I think there'll still be a lot of buy opportunities. So that'd be like option one, is we just rip into a bull from right here. I don't really personally think that's going to happen, although there's reasons to, you could come up with reasons to think that. And then option two would be, or like sort of scenario two would be, the sell off into the end of the year creates one more buying opportunity. If you can go hunt strong altcoins that have already put in structural bottoms, if you can hunt pullbacks into those levels, I think you have a really good shot of doing well if that happens. And then the bull starts after that into next year. That seems, like sort of like into the halving. And let's pull up my halving chart and maybe I can make my point from there. And we'll get into Bitcoin here. You can see Bitcoin's trying to take out the last week's high here at the moment, but let me pull up my little halving chart here for fun. Somewhere in here. This is a monthly chart on a log chart. And you can kind of see the last time, I was kind of looking for this kind of action into, so, well, before I get into that, let's look at some past ones. You can kind of see how, like, going all the way back, I mean, this was the 11 or 2010 bottom. This bottom here was actually November of 2011. God, that seems like, what was I doing in 2011? I first bought Bitcoin in 2014, but didn't start trading until 2017. But in 2011, I don't think I knew anything about Bitcoin. Maybe I had heard of it. I don't even remember. But point being, you can kind of see how, so that was November of 11, and then the halving was in December of 12. So about a year. Well, I guess I have 13 bars. Yeah, so 13 months before the halving was the base. And then we kind of, it's sort of like you see this pattern throughout all these cycles. Like there's sort of a dip right before the halving. In this case, it was just one red month. It wasn't much of a dip. It was more like sideways. But typically by the halving, on the other end of it, we've seen these bull runs. So that was 13 months, which that one's kind of the outlier. These all three were very similar. So this one's like 19 months. We actually put in the real bottom here in the next halving. So that was like January of 2015. And then the halving was August of 16. And you can kind of see again, like relatively bullish right up into the halving, and then dip into the event itself, and then bull on the other side. Here it was 18 bars, so very similar to the one before it. And same kind of thing. Of course, COVID was sort of the outlier event, black swan event, but it still produced that same dip a couple months before the halving, and then we rallied straight through the halving and into a bull. And then here we are now. Funny enough, 18 bars. That sort of seems a lot like 18 and 19 of the previous cycles we actually put in. And I don't know if I have this. That's not totally accurate, because that was where I was looking for a bottom, but then it actually came in 1 month later. So 17 bars, very close though. And we're just kind of rallying up into it. We still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish months, 6 months. Haven't seen the dip yet. Of course, I was kind of like postulating way back here that maybe we roll over. I really did think, it's funny because I was thinking about this the other day. I was really bullish for the 35K tag right here. I was looking for that head and shoulders target to be hit. Never could happen. And then I started turning a little more bearish here. And then sure enough, they proved me an idiot and took it to the head and shoulders target anyway. So if I'd have just stuck to it didn't really affect my Bitcoin trading it, but in terms of the YouTube shows and stuff, I was looking for more of a dip here and then some sort of W into the halving was sort of one idea. That didn't really happen like that, you know, which is just sort of the way this game goes. In fact, making these kind of shows is always a little tricky because, I mean, anything I say has probably at least a 50% chance of being wrong, if not greater. Which always goes to, it's always worth reminding that, you know, listening to any, if you're trying to get opinions from somebody else, you better assume that there's probably, I mean, hell, it's more than 50% chance they're wrong. So I don't like to give specific calls. I mean, I've learned already, I've done enough of this to just be, I mean, it's not like, or I shouldn't say I don't like to give specific calls. I love to give a specific call on my setup. If my setups come in and I'm going to take it, then yeah, that is a very specific call. And then of course, if it's a losing trade, that doesn't mean that I'm wrong per se. It just means one of my attempts at executing that setup didn't work. But hopefully I've already established that I have a reasonable edge in that setup anyway. So I know that one loser doesn't make or break me or actually ruin my setup or change my strategy. That's a whole other conversation about the sort of the game of trading. But when it comes to like making these YouTube shows and stuff, you'd never find me like trying to get everybody to load up on Bitcoin or something at any level. Like, sure, as we come into good locations, I'm going to say that. I'm going to say we're in a pretty reasonable location to be a buyer, which is not right now. So of course I'm not going to be like telling you to buy Bitcoin here. But point being, without getting off on too much of a tangent, you know, here we are 6 months ahead of the halving. We've definitely bottomed around the same period of time as the previous ones. So that gives me some faith that I don't think we're going to take out this low, to be honest. I really don't think we will. We could, but I feel like that low is the bottom. I mean, and listen to my words, I feel like that. I mean, feelings don't really matter much. But just kind of looking at this, it's sort of, if everything goes along to plan, then we should probably expect, you know, some sort of up-ish sideways or, you know, for a little while, then a dip into the, you know, some sort of dip in here somewhere, and then just continuing on higher. If this is going to play out again, of course, it could change. You know, we don't know. And, you know, the good news is I think, so, I mean, also to put it into context is like, I don't know, maybe we don't get another chance to buy Bitcoin down at the bottom of the range. You know, like if we draw reload zones off of this move here and start hunting those levels, maybe that never comes, but that does not mean that altcoins won't present a million buy opportunities. So like we kind of want Bitcoin. I mean, it depends on what your opinion is. If you're trying to load up on Bitcoin here, you're kind of like a little late. But we sort of want Bitcoin to just stay relatively stable here for a while to produce the kind of altcoin rally that I'd like to see. So anyway, point being, let's see what happens. But you know, maybe something like COVID, that's like a black swan event. That was a pretty big deal. So it would take a lot of it would take something like COVID again. You can see how they just dipped it down into essentially 88.6, which that's an amazing you know, we could go look at that on a daily chart, but they dipped it into 88.6. Did I say 78.6? I meant 88.6. I don't know what I said. And then ripped it from there. That took like COVID to do that, and the whole market fell apart, you know, sort of black swan style. So here it would take something probably similar to that to get us down into that reload zone. Which could easily happen. Shit, the world is crazier now than it was in COVID practically. So but I mean, you know, a couple months of down could give us a lot of opportunities in altcoins. So that's how I'd like to see it. You know, maybe we go into the bull run here, straight up from here. Even if that happened, there's still are coins that are at the bottom of the range. So I don't think it's like you've missed anything. It's just you better get your shit in gear if you want to take advantage of this, if you haven't already been doing this. I mean, we've spent a year doing this. We're not just starting now. So let me catch up on the chat a little bit here. People are chatting away. Omar's asking, he's saying he doesn't really have a, he doesn't know where to start with day trading, and he only has Coinbase because I'm guessing you're probably in the States like me then. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the unfortunate reality with crypto. If you want to day trade crypto and you're in the US, you're going to have a little bit of a hard time, like me, which isn't, it's kind of, it's hard, it's like hard for me to watch like Paul and those guys always trading because I can't access that stuff. And so that's how I've ended up trading CME futures. And then I've chosen to trade, me personally, I like the Russell 2000, but the ES or NASDAQ are the best options. And you could trade the Bitcoin futures on CME, but I can't see it being worth it. It's like if you can get a setup going, you're better off trading it on the ES than on Bitcoin, in my opinion, due to fees and margin and liquidity. I mean, to be fair, I've never actually traded Bitcoin on the CME, but I've watched it and looked into the fees in the past. I don't remember them specifically now, but I just remember looking into it and feeling like there was no point. You might as well just trade the ES, because when it comes to scalping anyway, it doesn't matter what asset you're trading, to be honest. You just need one that's liquid enough where the fee structure works for your typical stop size and all that stuff. So I can't really, well, just in honesty, you're going to have a hard time. I've been kicked off I've been kicked off everything, going back to BitMEX, trading leverage. I mean, the problem is you really want to have leverage, not because you need to lever up. I mean, it does help to lever up because you don't have to leave as much money on the exchange, but you want to have access to a couple things that the spot market doesn't provide you with. And one is the ability to short, clearly, like you kind of want to be able to short. And then two, the stop management is tricky with spot markets because most spot markets don't allow you to put a target and a stop in for the same position, because it's using the collateral of your actual holding, so if you work a stop, you don't have the coins to work a sell. That makes scalping pretty tricky. And so you kind of need to have those two things for sure. So on the flip side, I did start a Bing X account, and I do have one trade going right now, just kind of testing the waters here, kind of $100 challenge style. And so I could suggest Bing X. I mean, I kept hearing everybody talking about it, and then this is the exchange du jour that I'll probably get in trouble on YouTube for this, but they don't appear to be, well, they appear to be looking the other way, so to speak. And I'll let you guys know how that goes. I can't, I just started and I'm starting super tiny. But those are the kind of options you have as a US person for leverage. And we'll see how it goes. Now I do fully expect to get kicked off. So I'm not going to keep a bunch of spot positions on there or anything, because it'll probably happen fast too, just like everywhere else. But like I had started to say, BitMEX was like the first leverage trading, and that was back when the US wasn't as hardcore. Well, first for me, and then Qcoin, well, Binance for a little while when Binance allowed it, and then Qcoin. That's pretty much all. And then I got kicked off all of those, but I also got kicked off of a bunch of other exchanges in the process, like Bittrex, even smaller ones like Liqui and weird ones from like the first cycle. Just a lot of, basically the US is just shit all over crypto. So anyway, I can't help you too much with that. Well, but I mean, you can day trade stocks. You could day trade futures. Honestly, futures is a great way to get started with day trading. CME futures, that is, because you have, the ES is the most liquid asset in the world. You could trade the micros and probably start with as little as you could start with less, but probably a $2,000 account would be kind of the minimum I would suggest. But you certainly could start. They'll let you start with a couple $100 on the micros. But you'll probably blow yourself up pretty quick. Well, it depends on your stop and all that, of course, too. But so anyway, that's a kind of a tangent, but yeah, it's tricky for the US people. So of course, for the spot market, I'm focused mostly on Coinbase and Kraken on on that stuff at the moment. And to be honest, there's a lot of opportunities. I can't trade everything, but there's still a lot of opportunities. And then of course, we'll see how this Bing X thing goes. And then somebody else told me about another one called Zoom X, I think, or something. I gotta go look into that one. Just know you're taking all kinds of like systemic risk with these kind of things, so I wouldn't go and just like dump all your money onto it. And like I said, I'm starting small, and I haven't even looked into like all the, we'll see. Like sometimes these shit exchanges have some weird things. And I don't know if I shouldn't say that. I don't know anything about Bing X. I'm not saying it's shitty. In fact, I've gotten nothing but good. People seem to be relatively positive about it, so we'll see how it goes. So anyway, hopefully that's probably not very helpful, but it's really hard for US people, unfortunately. Yeah, let's see. I kind of got off on a tangent there, but I see Dalmoody in there saying something about not a bad idea to sell Thanksgiving. Yeah, it's not that crazy of an idea to think that we'd roll over post Thanksgiving. We'll see what happens. And what else? Da Vinci was talking about Bitcoin in 2011. He probably was, because wasn't he? Did he make some YouTube video about Bitcoin at $1? That's sort of what gave him cred, because he had they had people uncovered in the 2017 rally. They had like found Da Vinci's video going all the way back to then when he was like shilling Bitcoin at $1 or something like that, which is hilarious. So yeah, he was talking about it. Sorry, I'm just kind of catching up on the comments. I saw people typing away in there, so I'm just I mean, it's like to leverage a 2-to-1 risk. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Omar. I guess you're talking about day trading and stuff. Or wait, maybe I didn't read all your comments here. Flipping a coin is... Yeah, I don't know what you guys meant to... I probably got off track here, but probably when I was commenting about 50% chance of being wrong or something. I don't know. But Dalmoody's saying, in his opinion, 20K is more than 50% likely to be retested. Yeah, maybe. and I should get a Russian mail order bride to help me. Oh, cool, Omar. I'm glad I did. So I could get a Russian mail order bride to help me with and then trade her account. All right. We'll see, maybe. Can I just, can she still live in Russia? Anyway, holy shit. Now I got way off track, but I did want to catch up in the chat because I saw you guys talking away. And really, I'm just kind of, I mean, we're in a funny, well, I was getting to this whole point actually slowly. We talked about this halving idea. So that was the basis of like our show. That was kind of my original point. We started the show back here, in that big candle. And right then we were saying, accumulation, we're in accumulation year. And we were speaking mostly altcoins. And sure enough, that's happened. We basically bounced hard on Bitcoin, and then altcoins bumped along the bottom, setting up structural bottoms, and a lot of them took off during this time, and actually taken off twice now. So we'll just see here. And then the point I was trying to get to, I mean, I talked about the two different sort of scenarios that could play out, which is, I get that that's not really like saying, it's not very definitive, but it is true that we either go straight up from here or we get another chance to buy. It's not like a very definitive statement, but it's very true. We just don't know which one we're going to get. And so all we can really do is plan for that. So hopefully you're at least a little bit long. I want to buy more, so I would prefer the pullback myself. Dalmoody's saying he thinks 20K is going to be tested. So we'll just have to see, but all we can really do is look at the charts and tell us, or try to read the tea leaves, see what they're telling us. In my opinion, I don't think there's any better way than just actually going with the charts and trying not to get caught up in, in the drama of like moon boy thinking or doom and gloom thinking for that matter. And one chart is this halving chart, which we're sort of just, I'm making the assumption that these past 3 cycles are going to, or this current cycle is going to play out somewhat similar to these last cycles. It's funny how on a log chart it looks like we're getting pretty close to the highs already. But so I'm sticking with that, and I'm hoping for one more buy opportunity, and then I'm looking for some sort of bull run next year, and I have no idea how big or epic it will be, if it'll be like the last ones or not, but I think I can make money regardless, even just in a muted rally. So that's just my story. I'm sticking to it. And so this chart tells me that that's kind of playing out like I would expect. Seems to be. And then I think zooming in a little bit, we'd have to go look at Bitcoin and say like, well, okay, well, first off, Bitcoin's not in buying location. So to be a buyer of Bitcoin right here is super dangerous. Like if, a spot buyer of Bitcoin, not a trader, but an investor of Bitcoin right here, that's pretty dangerous level. But clearly we're in an uptrend that's not broken. So there's not really like any sort of necessary doom and gloom thinking here, in my opinion. There's no reason to think that, Del Moody's calling for 20K here, which would be eating that tail, which is, to be fair, like that tail is like a magnet. And that tail will be eaten at some point. It's just, do we go to like 200 grand first and back down? I don't know. But I bet you that tail gets tagged. And I also even think maybe this W breakout level at 18,380 will probably see attention somewhere down the line. It's just like, is it sooner than later? I don't know. But what I do know from the chart, so what's the Bitcoin chart telling me is Del Moody's saying he DM'd me a third option, so I'm happy to look at that. I don't see your DM though, actually. I don't know. Yeah, I don't actually see a message from you. But I'll look for that. Oh, maybe it was an option about crypto in the States. That'd be cool. Anyway, you can see I have like a kind of a ADHD brain. So anyway, where was I? What is this weekly Bitcoin chart telling me about the current, those 2 scenarios I talked about? And simply put, obviously in a strong uptrend, higher highs and higher lows, we have not made a lower low yet. Like even back here, we didn't take out the previous higher low. So, in terms of like how you define a bull market, then sure enough, this is higher highs, higher lows. Almost perfectly. That's like so I don't see a change in market state yet. And it is a weekly chart. So of course it's going to take forever to play out, but we're just making higher highs and higher lows. However, we're up in just like an area where we should expect some traffic and some sort of battle. And you can see the battle playing out here in 2 dojis, basically the last 2 weeks. And then now we're threatening to take the high out again, but as of yet, just haven't quite, which I'm actually short. So, if they take that high out, I'll my first Bing X trade is going to be a loser. But that's lower time frame stuff anyway. So anyway, I've talked a lot about 38.2s lately, just in the Collins dump chaser zone. I think it's kind of fun to talk about, but there's a reasoning behind that whole Collins dump chaser zone idea. And that's that this 38.2 to 50% zone is sort of like the dead cat bounce traffic zone. Like if we have like a bad bear market like this, and then we finally do catch a bounce, it's not uncommon for price to run up into 38.2 and then run into traffic. And so that's what's happening right now, even though everything's pretty uppy looking for sure and very strong. We're in our, so 7, what's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up weeks of green candles, not to mention more uppy really. So we almost have like 2.5 months of uppy after this like strong support here. There's, either way you slice it, there's just tons of support at the head and shoulders neckline down here at 25.4. And that's why I drew some fibs off here most recently, because I think that's reasonable to use this as a range now that we have such strong support built there. So like it'd take a lot to push price through there, I think. Not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying it would take a lot. However, I do think pullbacks into like the 32K area are very likely, and that's the buy opportunity in altcoins. So I kind of hope we run into traffic here, roll over, and at least come down and just test this old high here, which is the 50% level of that new range. And like, that's enough of a move to put the freak out in people, and I think have some of these high flyer altcoins come back down into buy levels potentially. But so far, there's no M or anything. There's no 3-bar fractal. There's really nothing up here to suggest we've topped out yet. We're just in this battle, sort of like the DXY's battle, which did, the DXY went through the exact same thing recently. Same kind of thing. We ran straight up into 38.2 after a bear market. Got swiftly rejected at the 50% level here, not so much at 38.2, and then had to bang around in here until we ultimately put an M in, and now look what's happened to the DXY. Which, funny enough, we're already almost down to Mountain Man. I was just saying yesterday, let's see, I think next stop's probably Mountain Man. It looks like we already almost hit it. And the dollar has no bounce in it yet. So probably should see a bounce around Mountain Man of some sort, even though it's, some sort of bounce in this area on the DXY might help that rollover. Or sorry, I shouldn't say that. Help the stock market rollover. I'm not really talking about the stock market right at the moment, but nonetheless, anyway, again, getting off topic here, I just wanted to show this sort of Collins dump chaser zone. This is a pretty classic dump chaser zone idea, in my opinion. Basically now we have a lower high. We basically, put this bear market in, dead cat bounced up into the 38.2 to 50% zone, put an M in, even retested that M 2 weeks in a row, and then just fell apart. That's kind of like pretty typical. And this goes for all time frames. I mean, that's the whole point behind the dump chaser zone. This would be short location for a trend trader that's trying to take advantage of this downtrend. They missed the move here perhaps, and then on the bounce, this is their next chance to consider a trend continuation, which in this case really projects new lows. So the reload zone of the entire DXY range is on the table here. Kind of. I mean, I don't like to think, I mean, it is, but I'd like to see all this range that's now established has a lot more work to do. So anyway, point being, that's kind of where Bitcoin is in the beginnings of that now, right? So we're up in the zone, and we have potentially a lot of back and forth to work this thing out. You can see the traffic, like sort of look left resistance area back in here, like especially like that candle body high, which we're now above, but it's still just, that was sort of the M breakdown, the last serious M. So we'll see. Now, this is an area where I'm looking for that rollover, and I kind of think we might have that rollover here in the next month or two. But it hasn't happened yet, so I can't really say that it's like already in progress. Like that DXY put in a solid M, weekly M. You don't get a lot of, I mean, the last time we had a weekly M in Bitcoin was back here. You can see what happened because we never really got an M here on the actual high, but sure, right here we did. And that was kind of the beginnings of the breakdown, to be honest. They took it up. I mean, this was like FTX, I think, kind of manipulating the market up, and then they basically just FU'd the highs and dumped it. But it started on that M right there. That was when the pi cycle top indicator fired, for that matter, which is the indicator we'll be using to sort of judge the next top, which isn't anywhere near now. But anyway, so it's kind of troubling location to be a buyer here. The last thing I'll say about Bitcoin is we don't have a breakdown, like I was just saying. There's certainly no structural breakdown in the price action, but there also isn't really any breakdown in either of these indicators here. Like RSI got very much overbought here. So if anything, when you see RSI right there, that's not a time to be a buyer. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean go short, because, you can see how RSI can become embedded. Like back here, we went overbought right here. And sure, you could have been a buyer there and you would have won out. And that's fine, except I think it's worth still saying you shouldn't really, as a trader, you shouldn't really be, well, if you're using RSI. But point being, RSI was embedded for quite a long time, and actually price continued grinding way higher. So it's not like the top's in because RSI got overbought here. It just means things are getting a little nosebleedy. But there's no breakdown here. There's no M's. There's no, not even back into the range yet. We're still just in overbought. I threw the moving average on here yesterday because I always think that's a cool way to sort of see the trend of momentum. And you can kind of see the momentum trend is up. It's still pointing up. We still have a lot more room to grind higher before the RSI actually crosses that moving average. So that's kind of like the same as here. You know, we broke out through the moving average and then went way into overbought, but that whole move was that area. So like, we're kind of in that same exact scenario there. So definitely uppy looking. And then of course my favorite OBV is just actually in a W. We talked about like potential divergences. Like it was breaking down here. We even M'd out here. Like that M came in on the dump into support, but it's a pretty good example of how sure we got an M, but location wasn't great for shorting. So we're way down here in a reload zone of the entire range. So while we did get an M there, it's not a huge surprise that price still recovered here. And now we're making essentially a big wide W. So I don't know. There's no fucking top in Bitcoin here. That's not quite confirmed yet, is it? Or no, it is. Yeah, I mean, yeah, confirmed yesterday or last week, sorry. So, so as I'm talking to you guys right now, I mean, it's very clear to me that we're not broken yet here. Bitcoin's not broken yet, but I am kind of hoping for that rollover and we'll see what happens. And like I said, I mean, hopefully you can at least see how a test of this 31,600 is actually just a higher low. If we come down into that level and find support, then we're still just in an uptrend. So there's nothing in the bigger picture broken about Bitcoin to retest that level. That's just kind of normal bull market things, right? Normal uptrend type of stuff. Coming back and Wyckoff checking the last W. I mean, that is a big old W now. So anyway, let's see if we get that. I would prefer it because the only issue I have with if Bitcoin just rips straight up from here, that's going to kind of, then I start thinking range here, and then I start thinking range highs and reload zones up here. And so we might get a rollover here, and that might be it for the party. At least if we more sidewaysy, get a little closer to the halving, makes this up move not so straight up. You know, if we just continue straight up from here, it's already been pretty straight up. If we continue just going straight up here, that's just going to be like more. I mean, think about how overbought RSI will get at that point. The moving average will get up into these levels and it'll just exhaust. And I was like, as a side note, I started looking for Tom DeMark's indicator. I don't know if they pulled that off of TradingView or not. I couldn't find a TD sequential very easily, but I don't use that. But I was just kind of laughing, thinking that, I mean, I do like Tom DeMark. If you guys have ever, if you're ever interested, go look up Tom DeMark. And the dude was a total character. I believe he's dead now, but his son's still a trader. But man, he is a pretty funny character with some colorful insights in the market. But his TD9 or whatever you call it, I'm sure a 9's firing here. It's got to be because we've been making consistent higher highs for like more than 9 candles or something. So probably seeing TD9's fire here, just kind of suggesting exhaustion. But for whatever reason, I just couldn't find a. I tried TD sequential is what I think it's called. I just wasn't seeing anything on TradingView, so I don't know. Anyway, or maybe maybe I didn't look close enough. But either way, not necessary to really pull up. But I'm sure a 9's firing there. So anyway, oh, cool. Thanks, Del. Maybe I'll check out that video. Paul's saying no breakdown yet. I agree. And we'll look at the daily chart here because the indicators are a little more ugly on the daily chart, which Paul's pointing out. And then, hey, Nathaniel. Good to see you, sir. Nathaniel is a person that actually day trade stocks. So Omar, like I was saying earlier, I mean, while day trading crypto is a little hard for Americans, you could always try the stock market. You could try the futures market, like I said. It's a little hard to get started day trading stocks with a small account, though, to be fair. You got to have 25K to truly day trade stocks because there are some legal requirements. But futures, I mean, really, I think the best place for a wannabe scalper to start is trading the CME micros, because it's a good way to cut your teeth on like the whole like sticking to your stop and getting black, having, it's hard as hell, and like you definitely have to take some losses and kind of get a feel for how scalping goes. And just, you're just every day you're showing up. And I actually had a brutal I mean, even today I had 2 wins today, but one of them was so fucking annoying because I got stopped out to the tick on my trailing stop, and then the thing went way higher and I got stopped out on the fucking tick. God. And so even with 2 wins today I had, I'm still feeling a little cross. Motherfuckers. That's a whole other story. Anyway, let's look at the daily chart for fun, just because I will, and then we can move on. I mean, I don't have anything. I'm just, I don't have any like great buys here. I mean, we can talk about the same kind of names that I'm hunting, and there are some things that are relatively buyable still, but for the most part, things have taken off. It's a little tricky it's more about just getting our bids working now and hoping for the pullback. But just to kind of look at the daily chart of Bitcoin, I do think it shows a little bit better of a picture for how we might be rolling over here, even though we're relatively strong. First thing I see is big ol' RSI divergence. So clearly we're in double divergence actually in RSI as we've ground, and actually triple, really, to be honest. We first had a divergence fire back on that little M, and then the wider M came in on these highs. And then now we have another M on a move to a new high. That's a pretty good sign of waning of momentum. And then you can see how my moving average got crossed there, checked, and M'd through. And now we're trending down. We're like checking the bottom of the moving average, seeing if we get rejected here. This could become a W, to be fair, and we end up back up top of the range, of the RSI range, that is. But that's very much a confirmed divergence for anybody that wants to know what a confirmed divergence looks like. On the loss of that M, that was a very solid one. And there's even more now. So that's pretty bearish. And of course you want to see these, we always want to look at this in context with location. That's actually the key takeaway from all this kind of stuff, really, especially for the Capio 1 guys. We finished our Capio 1 program, and now we're getting into like, can we actually take trades? People have learned the tools that we showed them, and now it's like, okay, well, how do we put them into practice? And context, location context is everything. Like this RSI divergence coming in at 38.2 dump chaser zone makes it worth thinking about. Like if it was coming in like down here in a reload zone, it's like, okay, sure. Like you can see how we did get an M here. It wasn't really divergence, but we did get an M, and it produced a little bit of a dump, but we were still in buy location. So it was pretty hard to roll the market over there. We were actually in the bottoming part of this price action here. So, and in a broader time frame, like a zoomed out reload zone for that matter. But here, this is a place to be taking divergences seriously, I'd say, because we are in the dump chaser zone. Location's a little better for shorting. So anyway, RSI div. OBV though is not. Let's see, what's OBV truly doing here? We made a new high, so we're not in divergence. In fact, we have another higher high, and then currently we're pushing a new high. So that's strong looking to me. So the indicators are starting to show a breakdown, and I know MACD has a big potential divergence. But I always think that OBV is the strongest indicator. It's why I've kind of narrowed down to only using that. I have RSI up now because it's fun to talk about and for these shows, and I've been playing with this moving average concept, but for the most part, I like to rely on OBV breakdowns to really give me a good, solid confirmation, and that's not happened yet. In fact, we're just kind of W'ing out. So more strength here on the daily chart, in my opinion, too. For fun, we'll zoom in just a hair and just look at the range, so where we're at right now looks like I'm not stopped out yet, but it's like classic Paul J range trading. We've established a range here in the shorter term. This is a 1 hour chart. Reload zones have now been taken out. and we actually came up against the highs, but we still haven't taken out the highs. So we are in a range here still. And even I would expect an FU move if we do take the highs out and then some sort of rejection back into the range. But it's pretty classic established range here. So you can see price coming off pretty hard. Now we can probably draw our fibs off the lows now and just kind of get an idea of what the pump chaser zone looks like. And if you are a trend continuation trader and you are thinking bullish, then you'd be hunting, you'd kind of think the next stop is going to be in the pump chaser zone, which is right here. So yeah, you can easily see how Bitcoin could come back down against these highs, you know, the last sort of traffic area, maybe find some support in here. Any kind of W's in here could suggest maybe ABCDs up to new highs. But for the moment, it kind of looks like they couldn't take the highs out and break it out. They're pulling back to recharge a bit here. You can see the M and RSI came in and we're starting to lose the moving average. Haven't yet. And OBV is still pointing very strongly up. So no real like momentum indicator breakdown yet. Well, I mean, we do have the M and RSI, which actually is a divergence because we did make a new high through that period. And so maybe we'll see. I'd probably expect a little bit of a bounce here and then maybe rolling over against the moving average, that is. But if you're a range trader, depending on your setup, you should have been thinking short here. If you're a short term, like if you are a day trader, for example, like candle body highs at 88.6 was pretty sick location to take a shot at, I'd say. Risk into the highs. And likely we'll come back down and maybe tag 50% level, maybe deeper. So it's kind of like the life of a range trader. You got to take your shot right here at the top of the range and see if you can capture any of the move back into the range. Of course, there's W's down here. So if we make it all the way down into reload zones, you might just repeat that process the opposite way, right? Like that's what Paul likes to call the range game. So like maybe you're going to hit 61.8 here. You know, if we can get all the way down there, maybe you're a cheaper bastard and you're going to hit 78.6, maybe even 88.6. But, you know, a range trader is going to be hunting down here for longs. A trend trader is going to be hunting longs in the pump chaser zone for starters. And then, of course, the range trader is already short at the top of this range. And we could talk about this all day because we could go back here and think about what getting long here, right? Like if we were, you know, if we had noticed this range being established here and we were looking for reload zone tags to get long, look where they bounced it right off Mountain Man there, 61.8 perfectly. So this is why Paul loves range trading, because so I see a bunch of trades here. I see maybe you missed this run up, so you patiently draw your reload zones. Maybe you're a Mountain Man buyer. You bought Mountain Man. You're looking pretty good here. Then you're a Mountain Man seller, so you sold Mountain Man right here and got stopped out. Or maybe no, depending on where your stop is, but you know, likely got stopped out. And maybe you took another shot here at 78.6 and you're going to see if you can get back down into the next long opportunity. And maybe we're just in a big old range here. And that kind of fits the whole end of the year scenario. Like where, you know, if this is like some kind of range where we kind of do something like this into the end of the year, and then we end up Wing here next January, that seems, you know, kind of likely. We're getting close. I mean, this is an hourly chart, sorry. So I'm kind of, that's pretty zoomed in for that thinking, but I should probably draw that same idea, but more zoomed out. Like, you know, maybe we're going to just kind of range around sort of back to the downside into the next, hell, it's only 5 weeks. That's the thing, is it's getting pretty close to the end of the year. So anyway, that was fun look at Bitcoin. Paul's saying he's short with the shark. So yeah, that's same with me. So of course that's basically just short from, you know, from 38 risking up to the highs, and we're just barely still in the trade. I'm kind of shocked they didn't take that high out. Can I take a look at cannabis stocks? Yeah, sure. Oh, Nathaniel's saying it happened to him today too. You got bottom ticked. Fuck. So frustrating. And that's the thing is like, and I'm not going to say I'm the best at this because I sort of, I don't know. I'm like not like cool as ice I'll be honest. I'm not like a that kind. I'm more emotional. Probably I'm more touchy feely. I'm erratic in my kind of. I mean, not not to be too hard on myself because I actually think I'm very consistent, have integrity, do what I say I'm going to do. I do all those things, but at the same time, I'm also just kind of like I'm not like a cool as ice trader. So like those kind of like things really fuck with me. And it's hard for me to stay in the mindset that I know I need to be in, which of course that mindset is okay. So I got bottom ticked on that one trade, but that's just one trade out of a series of hundreds of trades, and it's gonna happen 100%. In fact, it happens a lot in those sort of scalping environments. And really, I shouldn't let that trade bother me at all. But of course, in practice, it's pretty difficult. So, like, I mean, I always try to remind myself that I mean, fuck, I took 2 winners and I'm still mad. Like, I was laughing at myself thinking about that today. Like, I had 2 wins today. So 2 wins on a day, that's great. But yet I still felt a little cross with, the whole thing. And so I was laughing at how I could still be angry. Uh, but that's part of the game. I don't know. Maybe someday I'll be able to just shake this shit off. Like it's no problem. I don't think it'd be 100%, but the point is, can you find yourself a setup and a strategy where you can follow the rules of that setup and they're clear enough where you don't have to make irrational emotional decisions? I mean, truthfully, I followed my plan to a T, so I can't complain at all. I didn't change anything. I didn't, it's just a hard mindset to stay in, but you have to develop that if you want to be able to do this day trading stuff. So hopefully, Nathaniel, it wasn't too painful. I know you're grinding every day. That's another person that he's fucking trading all the time, every day, shows up every day, trade setups every day. It's hard, but it's kind of what it takes. And that's what our group's all about. So really, at the end of the day, that's exactly what we're about. We're trying to just all be professionals about this, and it's like a guild. We all show up to hang out together so that we can kind of hopefully learn from each other and hopefully support each other, and just kind of find some like-minded people that understand this, because man, like the average person doesn't know anything about trading. I hate when people ask me if I'm a day trader, but they don't know anything about trading, but they use that word because they've heard it and they don't have any idea what that means. But it's hard to talk to people that know nothing about trading. It's hard to talk to them about trading. And hell, most people that consider themselves traders still don't actually understand the intricacies of trading. Like, and specifically, I mean that what I was just saying, like the idea of thinking in a series of trades. Like, it's surprising how many traders, people that call themselves traders and do take trades, are still stuck in this sort of one trade at a time thing, make or break your, one trade is going to make or break your day. And they're not really considering that actually trading is all about 100 trades or 1,000 or more. It's like, can I take 100 of the same trade and come out ahead? It's not about one trade working or not working. And so, it's part of that whole thing of like showing up every day and just refining that craft in a sense, and just working at it so you can get to a place where you can just sort of execute your setup and not sweat the small stuff, and just be able to, one, take it every time it comes in, even if you feel like you shouldn't, like even when it seems like you shouldn't, or you have a gut feeling, but you still take it anyway because your signal fired. It's tough business. And of course, most people don't do that well at it. Anyway, geez, well, hell, this show's turning into me just, I'm going to talk about whatever I feel like talking about. I appreciate everybody that shows up every day, and I respect your time. So I always feel bad when I go on and on. But hopefully I say at least something of value every time, but can't be sure. But nonetheless, I'm just going to keep, just keep on doing what I do. And this is, for me, it's like, I guess part of this is me getting out sort of my emotions so that I can sort of offload those and then focus on trading in a way where I'm not like sort of, this is the fun part of this, or not that, I mean, not that trading's not fun. This is the part where I get to just be more fluid and more, not as consistent. I don't have to like have everything worked out when I do these talks. I can just sort of talk about what I'm seeing, and it's fun for me. And I think along, again, it also falls into the category of just like, I'm just sort of biding my time, sitting on my hands, but staying in the game. It's like doing, that's kind of why we have this community in the first place, because it just allows us to stay in the game without sort of overcorrecting and just putting on, like one of the worst things you could be doing is just putting on trades simply because you don't have a trade on. That's a horrible reason to take a trade, just because you don't already have one on. And I've done it a lot. And with day trading every day, I want to be in a trade. It's funny. You can feel it and it makes you want to ape in. But anyway, what else can we talk about? We talk about pot stocks a little bit, like Dalmo, he wanted to look at maps, which I do want to kind of look at that really quick. So, I mean, that's the end of my spiel on Bitcoin. We talked about a lot of different things. But zooming all the way down into this hourly chart, you can at least see that we might be range bound here for a moment and probably have to play around inside the range. We'll see. And with a little bit of luck, I mean, I don't know, maybe not everybody would see it this way, but in my opinion, a little bit of luck will drag Bitcoin down lower so that we can actually buy altcoins again. And let's look at maps, because this was a name that Dalmoody brought up quite a while back, and it looked really nice. This is like I think it's this one, WM Technology. Let me know, Dalmoody, if I'm looking at the wrong thing, but this looks like it because I have lines on here. And this is a pot stock, but man, this is a pretty good example of the kind of things that we like to invest in. Nice weekly W came in. This is when I think we probably were talking about it when it was too late to be a buyer. And then sure enough, they've just brought it all the way back down to the bottom of the range. So is it still a bull? Sort of to be determined. And to be fair, small cap stocks, I mean, this is on the NASDAQ. I don't know call it a small or medium cap or whatever, but stock market in general, stocks like this are struggling in general. They're not enjoying the same rally that altcoins are enjoying, which is why I've kind of said that my focus is on altcoins and not stocks for the moment. And that holds true probably for a while here. I'm not really excited about the stock market at all. But I mean, if we were looking at an altcoin or anything, really, we like to see weekly W's. We came back down into what looks like 88.6. If we drew fibs off of here, well, 78.6 we're sitting at. Did almost tag 88.6. So clearly location's awesome here to consider buying. I love to buy against old W's in situations like this. And when we look at the indicators here, I see OBV divergence, which is a little trickier to... I mean, the divergence, there is this big OBVW, which is exactly what I want to see to mark a bottom. And that came in on lower lows. However, if we go back to the actual low, we're not in divergence there because we actually took out the low. So this is sort of the finer intricacies of this kind of stuff. Like, the actual move to a new low was back here and it went to there, but the div, or actually, did I just draw it wrong? Or no, yeah, I moved that line. That's the div. So it's like, I still call that valid, but just kind of pointing out that sort of subtle difference there. But I would say OBV confirmed here when we broke the highs, which was on this big breakout move. And I don't know why I have the fibs drawn right here per se, probably because of a daily chart type thing. But you can see how 38.2 got immediately rejected. So that'd be like a dump chaser zone off of this high, just boom, pretty common. And that's not my favorite place to draw fibs. I don't know why I already had that on there, but I guess I was just it was probably 52-week range, July to July-ish. Yeah, so we were probably looking at it. With stocks, I do like to use the 52-week range, which, to be honest, I mean, you can see the perfect example of a dump chaser zone kind of thing. 38.2 came in right here and just offered up that service of rejection. So not uncommon. Like I said, this is kind of what you expect. Dead cat bounce up to 38.2 and then pull back where it either determines that the bull is still on and it'll find some sort of new base to recharge and go higher, or that's just it. And we actually take out the lows and continue a downtrend. We'll see. It looks like a little daily kind of bottom trying to come in. So I don't know. I mean, I like the W. I like the location. I like that OBV was in weekly divergence here. But and daily, it looks like RSI got oversold here and is trying to turn, and OBV kind of looks like it's sort of rolling over. Actually, I see an M, so I don't know. I'm not that excited. Again, my general lack of enthusiasm for the stock market plays here too. I'd rather go hunt an altcoin than buy this, to be honest. Just me. But I liked this idea when we first talked about it, and I do, in theory, I like it. I just, I don't know. I don't want to go underwater on a bunch of stocks, to be honest. I could totally see buying stuff like this and then just being so underwater later. I don't feel the momentum behind these things. So anyway, that's fun though. What other pot stocks can we look at? If anybody has any other ones, we can look at those. But maybe I'll jump into some. Well, I want to kind of cover a couple other things really quick. Just in the crypto world, like one Ethereum. I didn't really talk about that, but it's just fun to kind of look at these sort of range battles going on. Like Ethereum never made it up to 38.2. That's way up here. So still at any moment, I mean, just to be fair, at any moment we could probably rip up to 38.2 at 2,400 bucks. You know, there's no reason why that can't happen. But I do find it interesting that we haven't been able to take out the range highs now for I guess a month. Yeah, geez. We just cannot take out that 2142 level. So it looks pretty uppy even right now. Putting in like a hammer, I guess, is that what that is? I don't know. Yeah, hammer. If it, whatever, relatively bullish week so far. We sold off earlier and now it's bouncing pretty good. But I've kind of been thinking, this is a pretty good example of an accumulation range, even though it is wide. It's like we've basically banged around since back here June of last year. We've just been ranging. That's the accumulation bottom. And so like it's like, do we get another dip down into reload zones here? That's like a 1395 is 61.8 fib, or do we maybe come back and just at least kind of test these old lows here? Have that same kind of tail that Bitcoin had here back in that strong bounce back in March. That's sort of a magnet that's kind of lined up with 61.8. So yeah, there's reasons I think we could come down there. And it also doesn't look like they can take out the range. Now they might just be recharging this thing to blast it up to 38.2. The fact that it hasn't FU'd the highs and come back down it's not necessarily a bearish thing that they haven't taken the highs out here yet. It's just kind of like it could just be recharging here. So I don't know, but I do find it interesting they haven't been able to take the highs out. Of course, if you're a short-term trader, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be thinking of maybe trying to take some short opportunities up here against the range highs. But when I look at the indicators here, I see RSI not even overbought yet. So clearly RSI still has room to grind higher, which kind of gives the open air for Bitcoin Ethereum to at least take out the highs. And then OBV, I do see potential divergence actually. You can see how OBV did put in an M back here and now is currently in a potential divergence assuming we take out the highs here. So I had that drawn on there, but it will require that we actually make a new high to make that a divergence. And we don't know what OBV will do in that high, so maybe it takes it out. But for the moment, OBV is like losing steam a little bit. No M yet, but there could be a little M coming in, so I'll watch for that. So end of the point with Ethereum is we are in like lower time frame short location at the top of the range, or I shouldn't say lower time frame. We're at the top of a range, and so lower time frame traders I could see hunting shorts here for sure. But at the same time, momentum's still up, very uppy, just like Bitcoin, and we could at any moment rip up to 2,400 bucks to start that 38.2 battle. So that doesn't bid well for the altcoin pullback, but I could also just see a gentle, nice, polite pullback into kind of like 1600s area. Maybe 50% level's already been tagged of this range here, but any kind of pullback might create that altcoin dump that we need to be a buyer. Well, we'll see. Maybe I'll look at the daily chart for fun too. I suppose if in terms of on the weekly, Ethereum is not broken down. Bitcoin's not broken down. On the daily here, I'm just going to delete that trend line. I have an alert there actually. I wanted to hear about it when Ethereum did take out I thought that would happen back here. It looks like we kind of have a smaller range kind of consolidation happening here that could turn into a bull flag, or it could turn into an M. We could, potentially we could potentially have some kind of M coming in here. Not yet. That would mark a pretty good reason to think lower here into the next 5 weeks if this thing can M out and maybe dump down into those levels I was talking about a minute ago. But this also could turn into a bull flaggy kind of consolidation trend continuation kind of thing if we sort of just rip up to 38 point, if it decides it wants to rip up to 38.2. So it's kind of, I think it's like no man's land here at the moment. We're just in a range. Like if you're trading, this, then I could see just saying, well, there's the top of the range here and there's the bottom of the range here. I'm going to zoom in and see if I can short range highs and buy range lows. That seems like pretty reasonable for traders right now. But for investors, it's like off the table to be a buyer here. And you got to hope for a pullback. Paul's saying he wants an M. I mean, I think I want an M. I want to see the market come back here. So, but we don't always get what we want. And maybe for fun, we'll even zoom in one more time to 4 hour and see if there's any breakdowns. Not really. I can't say that there is. I mean, I see a W in RSI breaking through the moving average and the 50 line and having some open air above to potentially move higher. Probably come back and check that moving average, maybe even go deeper to see if we get like a real W. And I see OBV in an M. So I do see some breakdown in OBV actually, and even divergences technically, it looks like. Let's see. I mean, we had to move to a new high there, and OBV actually just barely ticked to new high. There's a divergence confirmed from here. So we do actually have confirmed 4 hour OBV divergence right there, basically confirming on the loss of that level. And that was on this move to new high. So there's that OBV divergence, which for my setup, like a KOBV setup, KOBV sounds kind of like a news station, or a television station. Welcome back to KOBV, the latest in news events. So I suppose, I could justify shorts up against reload zones here, just drawing my fibs off of this range that's now currently established and looking for any sort of like a 3-bar fractal top or something in here to try to get short. And maybe you can capture this M if it does come in, and then you'd be in a really favorable trade. And the OBV confirmation is enough for me there, but RSI is kind of pointing up still. And to be fair, currently we have a W right here that's pushing price up into the reload zone, and we got Mountain Man tag, not quite. So we didn't even hit Mountain Man yet. So we'll probably still have to push higher here. But any sort of breakdown up in this area, I think, is a viable short. Actually, this is for Capio 1. Actually, I'm going to try to remember this one for maybe a paper trade for those guys. So we'll watch what happens here. Yeah, it needs an M in price. Yeah, all to be fair. Yeah, so he's just saying that needs an M in price to make this sort of KOBV setup valid. So anyway, that's cool. But moving on here. So anyway, both Ethereum and Bitcoin really haven't truly broken. I think shorts are on the table for lower time frames, but in general, you might get knocked out here a couple times. We'll see if I get kicked out of that Bitcoin short. But I wanted to point out a couple things about Bitcoin dominance is looking pretty not favorable for altcoins. I think I saw Paul talking about that earlier too, but it kind of looks like we've come down into support against the old high here and checked that level, and we're pushing higher. So as long as this is pushing higher, probably altcoins aren't going to, maybe they can roll altcoins over a little bit. However, I mean, Bitcoin dominance has been strong through the altcoin rally of late. So I don't know. But it looks like dominance is pushing higher. And then I love this total market cap chart because it looks like it's pushing higher. I feel like market cap's got to get at least complete this ABCD, but that doesn't bode well for the whole rollover idea. But damn, if I don't see this as looking. So I think in general, crypto looks pretty healthy here. I mean, 38.2 is way up here. So like, you know, they could maybe crypto undergoes that battle up here at 1.6 trillion market cap. But to be fair, there's 3 dojis in a row. I don't know. Maybe it's got to, you know, pull back first. I don't know how accurate indicators are helpful for these kind of charts, but either way, RSI is overbought. OBV is actually trending down, but kind of uppy here of late. So if this was any asset, I would just assume 38.2 is likely to be tagged. And I still think, you know, maybe we get some epic run up there. But we're running out of time for this end of the year rollover, so. But I do love this chart. I mean, what I really see here is a big head and shoulders, just like this. That is now confirmed. And, you know, the target's probably somewhere up here. I don't know. I'm not going to draw that right now, but you could go draw your head and shoulders targets if you want. So that's dominance. And then I'll just mention ETH BTC really because I still see this as down. So it still looks like more down for. I mean, we thought maybe a bottom could be coming in, and maybe it still is, but I see this trend line here. I'd like to at least get on the other side of the trend line and W and stuff before calling bottoms here. I mean, we are at the bottom of a range, so to speak. Pretty likely they'll at least take out this low here because we do have fair value gap right here. And the next sort of look left support would be down here. So like it seems like an FU move to just basically scoop up any stops that might be there before going higher is probably on the table. Certainly there's no bottom here yet. And RSI is dipped into oversold, but not bottomed. No W's, no divergences, no anything. And then OBV is actually pointing down to in an M, as a matter of fact. You know, I see a big M there. Just a big old OBVM. So making lower highs and lower lows and lower hoes. You know, you're down in the dumps when you're taking lower highs and lower hoes. Paul's saying retest then ABCD on total. So yeah, that's kind of, that makes a lot of sense, right? A retest of either that, probably that high there, or maybe even all the way. I just have, that was like an old line, old level, which is sort of like the neckline of the head and shoulders. So yeah, some sort of pullback into support before making that ABCD seems pretty likely. And maybe that's what it takes. Maybe that's the end of the year thing. We dump down, find a bottom, shoot up next year into that ABCD, and then see where we're at, kind of up in 38.2 zones. Dalmoody's saying, I hope you get your M, but equal highs might draw a power of 3 FU. Yeah, on Ethereum. Yeah, we do have equal highs here, which makes the likelihood of taking out those highs probably pretty good. I do think fake out is probably in order. Like if you know, if Ethereum takes out the highs, which it likely will, maybe even today, these are the equal highs. Well, we have equal highs now. We have all the way going back here, and now we have 2 more equal highs set up. So all around that 2100 level. It seems very likely they'll take those highs out. And I'd think fake out here anyway. As a shorter term trader, I'd be thinking to sell that level, not buy it. So, and the power 3 kind of idea would essentially be something like we, you know, take out the highs, play around for a minute, but relatively quickly get back inside the range and reclaim the range. That's the sort of power 3 idea. It's, you know, it's looking for that sort of FU move and then a quick reclaim of the range, which might be an M or might not, but any M right there would definitely be a sign of power 3, in my opinion, if we get back into the range. And then of course the targets on power 3 are like way down here. I don't trade the power 3, so I don't know exactly, but I know it has a pretty aggressive target. And that's, of course, power 3 is the ICT guy's concept. You can go look him up, Inner Circle Trading. Pretty popular these days. And a lot of the concepts like fair value gaps, I like the fair value gap concept. It just sort of fits with other concepts too. It's not like they're brand new things. Even like things like 70, reload zone kind of ideas. He likes too. It's not like, oftentimes you'll find a lot of these things. Yeah, if you can find a setup that also seems like it's very similar to other working setups that people use, then it might be, there's probably something to it if it's like similar in nature. Because a lot, this kind of range trading idea we're talking about, you could like skin the cat any way you want, but like they're all kind of the same things. You're looking to buy the bottom of the range and sell the top of the range, and you're just trying to find reasons to sort of validate that. And then of course the power of 3 idea is what we call an FU, which is still a range trade. Like this range we're in right here, top of the range, bottom of the range, just simply hitting this level is viable. I mean, I see this in the futures market every day pretty much. And they'll do it on epic levels. There'll be like a high from like 3 weeks ago, like a key high, and it takes 3 weeks, and they finally run it up and they just tick the high and just dump it, And so that, if you can find key levels on the futures market to look for these kind of FUs, that can be a very viable strategy. But point being, this is still a range trade. You're basically shorting range highs, looking for a move back in. And so anyway, like Paul always says, fake out, not breakout. He doesn't really say that. He says something like that. He always assumes fake out. I think that's very wise. And because also too, do you really want to buy that level? I mean, I don't know. That's kind of like, I like the idea of selling that level because, they're going to probably wash the stops there, but I don't really like the idea of buying that level, looking for prices way up here. That's really risky trading. And funny enough, like a perfect example would be the all-time highs of Bitcoin. I've said this before, but look how like, we had this old high. They ran price all the way up into there. And people were calling for 100K Bitcoin like crazy right here, man. Everybody was just just was positive Bitcoin was going to 100K. And like, look what happened really. I mean, they didn't even close above that level. They almost did, I guess. Did they actually close? Looks like they did on Coinbase. So they closed it outside of the range and then immediately just dumped back in. And then of course, all hell broke loose after that. That's a classic fake out. So if you were a breakout buyer right there, you just got wrecked. There was a key tell here, and that's kind of volume. I mean, look at like, you could see like the chunky green bars through this bull here. And then a big old red capitulation bar here, which kind of marked the bottom truly. Like a big old red bar here heading into like panic lows is often signs of a bottom. But look, when they took the highs out here, you look at the green volume or just the volume in general, there was just not very much activity compared to the bull back here. So that was a pretty key, tell. You should have seen volume. If you want to be a breakout buyer here, you really want to see strong volume to support it. And actually my OBV, if you look at it, probably does not support it. In fact, hell, look at what's happening. I mean, to be fair, actually OBV did take out the high and then immediate M afterwards. So you didn't really get a strong signal from OBV telling you to be careful here because we were taken out. Yeah, as we moved to the new highs, we did have a new high, but certainly didn't last very long. Gave you a nice pleasant M pretty quickly after, like on that candle. A little late to be a seller, but... So there's kind of a tell there. But anyway, that's a whole other fucking tangent. Jeez. So be wary of breakouts. Now, of course, a W is a breakout, right? We talk about W's a lot, but the difference between like, again, going back to my location context is everything kind of thing. Like, we don't say buy W's up here. Like if there was a big old W right here, I wouldn't be saying go buy it. Like that's a horrible W, but we wait for W's down here in good location. So if you don't know how to, figure out location. Then that's step one. You got to learn fibs is one of the simplest ways to use to have a location tool. There's other tools you could use, but a W down here in a green box is much more appealing. And to be fair, it was a breakout. Like, W breakout is a breakout buying strategy. However, look where you're buying. Like, I mean, you're buying into all this weakness. The W came in, and you're looking for a reversal. You're actually you're hoping for a range bottom here. We have this painful bear market. Eventually, a W will mark the potential range bottom, and if that bottom holds, then you should expect a move to 38.2. So that sounds like a trade setup in itself. You could buy W's and take profit at 38.2 of the range, which would have been a 5.6 to 1 that you took profit on a month ago. So that's kind of interesting. Well, anyway, point being, that's the kind of breakout I want to buy, not so much like a breakout of range highs. Jeez, wait, I've already been talking an hour and a half. Fuck. I give up, man. I don't know. Shit. Well, that was an hour and a half. I actually kind of had fun too. I don't know if I said anything valuable, but I was having fun just rambling on. But certainly didn't get to any altcoins, so maybe I'll try to move on. I mean, I don't have any requests. I do try to like hit the requests, and normally I have like a handful of them. But today I don't have any requests, so I didn't have any new things to look at. But I do have a couple from yesterday, so maybe I'll just try to spend a few minutes talking about altcoins, actually, since that's the sort of general point of this show. But I don't know. I feel like everything I talked about is important to the altcoin story anyway. But let's see. I did have a couple new names come up yesterday. One is this Vox, not really new, but just one I hadn't been thinking of. This Voxels is pretty intriguing to me, and this is the exact kind of thing that I'm talking about here with these pullback sort of buying opportunities. I mean, one, I just see like a big wide W. So just to start, there's a W there. There's also some little W's, like smaller one there and a smaller one there. So there's a lot of reasons to think bottom here. Next thing I'll say is they already gave just a beautiful retest of 78.6, like on the I'm sorry, that's not true. I did this yesterday. We hit 78.6 now, but that's late. It would have been there. I did the same thing when I was talking about it yesterday. So, but nonetheless, that was a nice retest of the W, these wide W's here. And even they tried to basically Wyckoff check that W here, just didn't quite hit it. And so that's sort of the retest idea. But going forward here, I just see a nice, strong, pretty wide W here at this point. And then I see, reload zone that is now set up, assuming we're at the top here. This might not be the actual top at the moment, but looks like we're running out of steam, to be fair. But this week so far, I guess it's only Tuesday. Geez, and that should be a green box. So anyway, really like this. They didn't hold the range lows here, so we can't really use fibs there. So we're sort of making we don't have such a great location tool for this back here. But now that we've kind of carving out a new range, we will going forward. Now, maybe this ends up being higher if they run price. I'm certainly not going to buy this here, just to be clear, and it might go higher, and I might have to drag these lines up. But assuming that's the high there, I really like how this is setting up here into the end of the year, because this is what I would consider a strong altcoin structurally. It's already got a base in. So now any dips against that base are buy the dips, not panic sell. And I feel 100% confident that we're moving into that realm now, where we're anywhere you see a nice bottom like this, then moves into that are pretty good opportunities. So locations down here, obviously at like 17 cents and below. That's about 17 cents is the most I'll pay here, which is the breakout level basically. That wider W. And maybe somebody's stinkier than me, and they, I I could totally see 78.6 down here at 14 cents and maybe even lower. You can try to get, and of course, me, I'd probably work all three of those bids and just sort of live with the results, see if I can get filled on all of them with an average cost around 78.6. I've said that a lot. That's like my goal here is can I get averaged in around 14.7. So anyway, location and the W's in, but in the indicators, is there any sort of bottoming action going on? And I think the answer is yes, very simply. I mean, one, there's definitely OBV divergence like on this low. We moved to a new low, set the market low or the current low, and OBV was making higher lows. And then ultimately, we actually haven't confirmed that until potentially this week. Funny enough, we got to take out this high to truly confirm that div. So it looks like it's trying. We got to close this week to see, but general upward trending WE looking OBV, lots of W's, even this W here currently, and actually a bigger W that's trying to come in there. That's plenty enough to make me feel like this bottom's got some support here. Smart money was accumulating in here, not selling. And then RSI actually, let's see here, RSI. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't really love divergences like this because they're like two different moves, right? We put in a low here, shot up, and then took out the lows and put in a divergence. And that's fine. I do think it's valid, but I prefer a divergence to happen in the current move. So like down in this move, which OBV actually was in, or no, because we took out the low just a bit. And then RSI was definitely not. But that's just me. I would rather see a divergence on that move. But it's there, and RSI is there and confirmed, but already way up into overbought now. Or wait, sorry, not quite. Overbought's way up here. But you can see this moving average idea, and this is kind of the idea I was talking about yesterday with like premium group is like if you used RSI with the moving average as a confirmation, you'd wait for W's through it, and that would have been your signal there. So you could have, you have pretty decent location. You see the W and RSI come through the moving average. So you got confirmation on that candle, and then you could have waited for this W and bought that W. That would have been a nice trade. But I mean, going forward, I like this one a lot. Voxel. I think I saw I could even trade it on Coinbase now, but I might be confusing that with another one. But point being, I'm going to work this is a perfect example of if we can get any kind of dump in Bitcoin and if something like this can dump back in against the W, then this is everything I've talked about for an hour and a half. So I could have spent less time and just shown this chart and said, well, we'll see if we get dips. But if there's any kind of dip, I want to buy something like this. I don't want to buy something that's still in the making newer lows process, which is most altcoins aren't. Some don't have nice bottoms, but most things have kind of like stabilized at least. I don't know if I've seen too many altcoins that are just grinding to new lows still. There probably are some. So anyway, let me see if I can buy this. I don't have it yet. Let me see if I can buy this at 17.5 or below, or 0.175. And I don't know if this is the original Vox, because it was Voxels going back to, I traded this in 2017 and got kicked off Bittrex and stuff. I guess it's probably the same thing. I was actually a little surprised to hear it was still around. But it seems like it rebranded or something, because it's got some other name now. Let's look. Because I think I saw it on Coinbase. Yeah, Voxies. I don't remember them calling it Voxies, but that's the same thing. Yeah. Same chart. So there's one from old KRL. He was one of our resident gladiators and kind of deep into the sort of crypto rabbit hole. Try to pay attention to his ideas when he brings them up. And so there was one from him yesterday. And then also I think he had one more. But there's a couple of these. I don't remember if he brought up XCN all of a sudden. I can't remember if that was him or not. But this one, geez. So this is, one, clearly there's just like a mega shit ton of upside here. It's like you can hardly even see it on the chart. And this is Coinbase. Maybe I can look at it. Maybe somewhere else is better. Poloniex. Actually, Poloniex is another exchange that I traded leverage on. Yeah, that's funny. I forgot that one earlier. Yeah, definitely traded margin on Poloniex back in the day until they booted me. I guess Qcoin's probably the. I mean, anyway, this I don't know if this is what I call a strong altcoin. This is what I would call like a shit coin that's worth taking a punt on. But it's not like if I was just trying to buy solid weekly W's and pullbacks into them, this might have it. So let's look. We have to zoom way the hell in because, geez. But I don't see a weekly W, so I don't like this. Isn't going to be high up on my list to buy. Remember, I want to buy ones like that voxel where the W is actually already in. This I just see, lower low, a new lower low, and actually maybe even another lower low. Yeah, so we have like the kilo down here, the main low, the low, and now we've just V bottomed off of it. And to be fair, it's probably doubled. It looks like, I don't know. It's made a pretty big move. But this isn't really price action that I'm looking to buy the dip in. Like, I don't think this is like a buy the dip, just like hit a reload zone area on the way back down against the old W kind of thing. This is still in the bottoming phase. And so I'd rather see a real W down the road. But so I wouldn't rate this one very high on my list, but to be fair, RSI is looking like it's went into divergence and now is confirmed and trying to get out of oversold. So that's, and man, it's been a lot of time. I mean, that's a perfect example of embedded. This is why you can't just buy oversold RSI. Like, it went oversold here when price was way up here and has just been embedded that whole move. So it takes a long time. That's why we kind of look for W's out of the overbought or oversold condition. And OBV looks like it's W'd in turn 2 and possibly in divergence. So it's trying, but it's just not a real structural W yet. So I don't love that. I think maybe like I don't think either one. This one's these are kind of the same. Somebody else told me about this blank, which is pumping on some YouTuber influencer stuff. Also very V bottomy, so it's not the kind of buy the dip thing I'm talking about. Like, I want to just wait for a W on this one. But OBV's turned and RSI turned. It's already almost overbought, or even sitting where it is right now. So I don't like this one so much for a buy right. Well, definitely not buying it right here. I'm not going to do, but I also I wouldn't just draw my fibs here and hit a level. That's not kind of my style. So I'm not going to just like hit 61.8786 or whatever on this V bottom. Not saying it won't work. I'm going to prefer to wait for, I want to buy the pullbacks into things that are already bottomed. Shit, I have a bunch of them here. I mean, that one that the voxels is a perfect example, but also like Siacoin would be one that just comes to mind. Like something like this, where it's like, hopefully you can see the difference. Nice little weekly W for sure that you could buy on pullbacks, or I could draw reload zones and buy the dip there. But also, there's a weekly W back here that's still holding, and now we have this wider weekly W. So this is what a bottom to me looks like. Like, when you zoom out and see, I mean, look at the difference. There's a huge difference between this chart and the last chart. I mean, one, we're still basically holding the original lows. We came back down against it and found support, which is a nice location. So all the way down against these lows here. And to be fair, Siacoin has probably lower lows on other history. But that W, I think, is very viable. Just pullbacks into it. Whether you draw your reload zones here like that and kind of hunt, like, you can see how 78.6 is right around the breakout. That's the kind of thing. When I talk about buying the dip, this is what I mean. I want to buy dips into W's. I don't want to buy dips into V bottoms. So anyway, that was just one example, but I don't think that this one that we were just looking at, blank, fits that criteria. It's just pumping. You can see how they pumped it here on a V bottom and then took it to new lows afterwards. Whereas like here, there's kind of a W in there and then they pumped it. And so I suppose buying in this area would have been okay, just because and it's not a real W though. I mean, you have this bigger, wider one. So yeah, sure. You could have been in there buying and you would have probably banged out a double if you just hit like 78.6. I bet you that's 78.6 right there. So that's okay. Yeah, 78.6. Did they hit it before? Oh, man. 786 is 060, or that's 886. 0830. Oh, so they definitely hit 786. What am I talking about? I was looking at 88. They almost hit 886 before they ran it. 786, you would have done fine. So even this is a perfect example of what I'm trying to say. There's a base set here, so buying against that base in reload zones makes sense to me. There's not a base set here, so buying this against reload zones doesn't make sense to me. Or at least not at the moment. I mean, sure, if we're in a rip and bull and you really wanted to own this, then that would be more. And again, as I turn into more aggressive, like going all the way back to January, I was kind of like, I'm only buying weekly W's. And then now I'm sort of like, starting to get a little more aggressive, still only buying W's. But then at some point, I'll just knife catch 78.6 if it gives me the opportunity, not even care, because like once we head into a bull, you're lucky to get those kind of tags. And I'll just be more aggressive, but we're not there yet, I don't think. Niku wanted to look at H bar, which is funny. I was looking at, I was trying to find THG 5-minute trades today for my Bing X account, but an H bar was one that had come up on my radar, but I didn't take a trade, but I was looking at it. It was looking kind of uppy today. Well, I mean, it had like a 5-minute THG trend going, but this is a weekly chart, so I got some random lines here. I mean, it looks like I had drawn a trend line here to wait for a W, and funny enough, we did get that W, and it's still working. So I think the trade is on here from a level that's not too far from here. 0.059-ish is that W breakout, and then they've come down and didn't put another W in. See how we took a new low here, so there's not really a W there, but we do have a W working on the other side of this trend line. So there was some sort of change in the market state there. And it also came on, this is that kind of divergence that I would prefer here when we move to new lows here. OBV went into bullish divergence from there to there. And then we confirmed that on this candle. So this is a pretty good KOBV setup because one, we have I mean, really quick, we're clearly getting into good location against the old lows here too on that. You know, they brought it all the way down to the old original W, which is very common, just, finally got it all the way down there. And as soon as they did, they bounced it pretty hard. And there's some downside still here, but just ignoring all this and kind of focusing on the current range, because I do think we have a nice base being set here. The KOBV setup would simply be just, we on this move established the range. So getting down into reload zones here, location was good. OBV was going into divergence, like on this, like this panic buy or sell off, right into 88.6. So I guess knife catcher buyers buying 88.6 would have been relatively rewarded. But that low marked the possibility of divergence. And then of course that divergence truly came in, looks like right here on the green candle that sort of ended up becoming the middle of the W. And so that was, so we had location and we had confirmed OBV divergence right here. And the next rule in that setup is a W. So whether you call this the W breakout or whether you waited for a candle body close, you got both of them. And then whether you buy that level, I don't really have a problem with that. It's not my favorite. It's all the way up at Mountain Man, but to be fair, it's still in the reload zone. I mean, the reload zone is here. So like, you could have just gone and bought that W. And even assuming we were using a stop, so you're risking to these lows, you'd still be in this trade. I'm kind of speaking more like no stop investment trading, but as a setup, you could have, worked your stop at the low of the W and you'd still just be kind of waiting for this breakout to truly materialize. And so far it hasn't really. I mean, they obviously pulled it all the way back against the lows and they've bounced it now, and it's not really enjoying like a mega rally like a lot of altcoins are right now. But totally buyable in my opinion, and no rush. You could probably work stinkier bids if you want, but I can't really fault anybody for just buying that level, to be honest. I think I did. I can't remember now though. There's so many fucking names. I can't remember if I could. Maybe I can't trade this one. I thought I had. It's definitely looking at it because I had all this stuff drawn on there. I don't think I did. But anyway, little W's in, maybe wider W. Looks like the base is relatively in. I can't fault anybody for buying this reload zone. OBV divergence was already in, and RSI itself, it wasn't in divergence through that period, but it is W'd out now above the trend line, trying to get some momentum, or the momentum's generally behind it. I think checks of the moving average in the 50 line is probably in store, which would mean price will probably come a little deeper here. And then, any kind of new W would certainly be buyable. But from like an investor's standpoint, I don't see any problem with buying this W there, considering all things in timing in the cycle and all the stuff I talked about. Now, to be fair, if we get that rollover I was talking about, this one hasn't taken off and fully broken out yet. So it's probably more likely to make a new low, and then there is downside risk. So it's not uncommon for this first W to fail and then a new one have to come in. So just keep that in mind, but it's generally pretty good looking. I don't think yeah, like I said, I don't think I have access to this one. Or wait, let me look at, I do have Coinbase, but I don't think I'm in on this one. If not, I'm going to go look at it for sure, because I do want to be long H-bar. I think it's like a relatively decent name in my poor FA analysis, but I think in general, I mean, you can see what it did last time. Holy shit. 06 cents here. And then, I don't know, even this is that, even I said 50% levels earlier, but even 38.2s, if you can structure the trade where you can get a double back to 38.2, I mean, that's already 24 cents. So, I mean, it's 4x up to 38.2. In fact, the double would be a test. And I probably already did all these lines are already here. I probably have another video where I was saying that back here, the same exact thing. But the double level is just, move back to this sort of kilo here. So it seems like let's just put it this way. If crypto's bottomed, the chances of getting a double right here are very high, I'd say. And even if you have to go underwater a little bit, there's probably still a pretty good chance you'll get that double. Oh, there's my best version of an H-bar chart, Niku. Hopefully that's I mean, to be fair, I mean, this is the exact kind of, Brian Beamish calls it a saucer bottom. I don't know if he's the only person that calls it that, but, this looks pretty saucer bottom-y. And personally, if you can find a reason to buy at this part of the bottom, like this, I was saying this yesterday, I like to look for the divergences on this side of the bottom. You let this part play out and hopefully you see some divergences there. And then even this dead cat bounce, you don't necessarily, I often miss this. I'm not even really that concerned with that part of the move. I mean, of course, this is where people get sucked into buying the top here on this first bounce. They'll buy up here and then they panic sell right here. And then the real bottom comes in and they get left behind because they sold. I think if you're trying to just slow play these cycles, there's not really that much concern with that first bounce. Just let it happen. That way you can draw your reload zones and then you hunt back over here, because then you're getting to this side of the saucer. So this side of the saucer is for divergences, to give you some idea that this might actually be the low going forward. If it gives you a nice W, sure, okay, buy it. But if it's like a V bottom like this, I definitely don't buy it. And that was sort of the beginning of the year, right? Like this was where I was kind of saying that. I was like, I missed things like this. Did manage to bang out quite a few doubles, but I did miss all the V bottoms that still doubled probably. So it's not like I'm always right. It's just that I have made some rules to keep me out of trouble. And one of those rules is I look for divergence here on this side of the saucer. And then on this side of the saucer is where you want to be a buyer. So you're looking for your W's over here or other sides of trend lines or reload zones. I have my divergence in OBV. So I'm thinking, I mean, in this case, let's see if the OBV div came back in where I was saying. So I didn't get my OBV div there, but I did get it here. But for the point of my conversation I was having, I like to look for divergences here, but not necessarily trying to call the bottom here. I'm letting it just sort of play out. And sure enough, if you were patient and you were willing to wait almost a year, this is like a lot more, I mean, you have a lot more information to base your trade on here. Sure, you could have bought that level back here and you would have been just treading water this whole time for a year. Or you could time your purchase a little bit and kind of, if this saucer bottom's coming in here, which kind of looks like it is, that's what a bottom looks like to me. Nice and wide, whole year long accumulation year. Then this is like sort of the sweet spot. And sure enough, the W came in back here, and you're fine if you bought that. So I like it. A new W would be better, to be sure, but if a new W comes in, I'll buy that one too. So I like H bar. It looks good to me. I'll have to go look after this and see if maybe I did buy it. I don't even remember. So anyway, that's H bar. Hell, I'm already getting on 2 hours, so I'll just maybe, if anybody has any last requests, I'll take a look. Otherwise, I'll try to pick one good one for the road, which is kind of hard because I mean, as much as most things, a lot of things have taken off, but there still is plenty of that are just sort of sitting here. So it gets back to that idea. Do you believe that there's going to be a bull market straight from here, or do you believe it's worth working some bids and kind of catching the pullbacks that likely might happen here in the next month or two? And then there's there's ones that are sitting right at the breakout level, like high, for example, we've talked a lot about lately. It's just kind of sitting right at the level. The same chart as H bar, the trend line is in, the W's on the other side of the trend line, the OBV div is in right there. OBV div was in back here, like what I was just talking about with the saucer bottoms. That's like a nice sign of a weekly base being set when the OBV div comes in on that initial low. And this would have been a perfect example of a trade that I wouldn't have taken on a V bottom during that. So I'd have missed this, which I did miss this, but like I had no setup here. And now things have politely backed themselves up against the W. It's just sitting right there at the level. So there's one. I mean, these are just ones we've talked about recently. Like IDEX is another one that's just sitting there. So you can't say there's not things that aren't buyable. So there are things that are too far gone, and these aren't really buy the dips because they're like buy the W's right now. So to be fair, if the market dips, you might have to go. These might break the W. We'll have to see. We don't know. But if you're a W buyer, then this is a W. Also comp. So there's plenty of things that are buyable. Now, I think you could be a little stinkier about your bids. You don't necessarily have to hit these right here. It's probably likely you can get filled lower. This one's sitting above the reload zone. But there's three. I mean, things like lit, talked about a lot of that lately, probably could still get filled there on any kind of pullback. Also the same, OBV div is in, W's in. Now that I have RSI on the screen, I do hate that these things didn't get oversold here, really. It's kind of a little worrisome that RSI never touched oversold. But it is what it is. Nice W in a reload zone. Hell, I think all these in orange that I marked are all kind of like at the level. Yeah, like ARPA, I bought this breakout. It's sitting at W at 78.6, and it just tagged it again this week. OBV divs. Well, I mean, not really divs, W's here, because we didn't actually take that low out. But I think I can see a little div in there. Can I see a div here? Yeah, there's in that low. OBV went into divergence. So lots of reasons to be a bottom here. I don't love the like downside risk if this thing does start falling apart. It could, and really, to be fair, at any moment, I think altcoins could come off 30% out of nowhere, just like, holy shit. It's happened before multiple times. So we'll see if that happens. I mean, more than 30 could be potential, but I could easily see just one day out of something crazy happens, big ass dump, and that will end up being the buy opportunity. And if you don't have your bids working, you're going to miss it. That's pretty likely, in my opinion. Let's see. Can I find anything else for you guys? There's only a few people in here, but and it seems like on recording, quite a few people have been watching this, but I think 2 hours is pretty epically long. I don't know. So sorry about that, but it is what it is. But I'll try to find a couple, maybe one more good one. Those are all buyable in my opinion. But what's something new here? Spell, maybe? I think Spell is too far gone. I can't remember. Oh, and I did work some bids on something. What? Oh, yeah, I remember. I'll show you guys that one because I haven't really bought anything new the last week. But I wanted to mention. Well, spell is just. This is actually um, kind of a little bit weirder of a chart. But to be fair, the OBV divs are in, especially on that low there. I mean, this one is one of those ones that's still like through this period, we were making lower lows and lower lows. Can't really draw fibs anywhere except now. Only most recently we can draw our fibs to get an idea of location inside this little range, but don't really have a solid base to work from back in the past. So you're you're trying to call the first bottom. It's always a little tricky to call that first bottom. But nonetheless, look at OBV just pointing strongly higher in divergence the whole way. Big volume weeks here and there over the last while. And I think you can argue there's sort of a W there. It's sort of head and shoulders-y looking and kind of ugly. It's not like the cleanest thing ever, but there is a W right there. And so I think the trade is setting up. I think the smartest approach with spell here is to draw reload zones now. Wherever the top is, it looks like that could easily be the top. And hunting pullbacks against this W. It's not my favorite W, but I do like the idea of buying this one, just based on the sort of likelihood of a bottom coming in somewhere around here, 40.00043. Yeah. And so I think I think I'll call it a day. I'll end with just I do have some high flyers that I'm in, which are good, fun to look at. I've banged out some doubles like on this unfee. This is a pretty good example of buying a W and what can happen on the other side of a W. You can see the cheeky little W that came in there. Or like super. This one actually is, I'm cheating a little bit here because I didn't really, this one isn't the cleanest setup actually, but yeah, banged out double there. Runes ripping. AKT is ripped immensely. Got 2 cars going on this one. I mean, this is a pretty awesome. I mean, this little W back in here, I mean, just kind of ignoring this mega wick, or at least I did, drawing my fibs. I just kind of deleted that and drew my fibs off the high. That was probably just some fat finger thing anyway, but perfect example of a W coming in. This is what I would talk about buying a strong coin, like into the end of the year. If you can see a W like this, and then prices sitting up here now, which like a lot of them are, you draw your fibs and you're just hunting 78.6-ish or around there. And you can see how the 78.6 buy launched. And this one's particularly funny because look where I didn't get filled. And I remember because I didn't even work my bid in the right spot. It was like below 88.6. It didn't come close anyway, but usually I work my bid a little bit above 88.6. But I find it hilarious that, like, hilariously painful that is, that they fucking missed me there and then just it's never looked back. That's what happened to me today, basically. But I got stopped out on the tick and then. So anyway, there's a couple high flyers. And then, well, I wanted to mention the one I was thinking of actually was this IOS, or however you say that. This is a bull. I've already sold on a second double here, and it's already, God, is it doubled again? It doubled again. Not quite, almost. So this one's actually on its third double, but I'm not selling that double. Actually, I'm gonna just let this thing ride. Paul, our Road to Financial Freedom plan is just selling the first double, and we're gonna hold everything. My plan is this year has been to just sell on 2 doubles if I was afforded them. And I really didn't think there'd be that many. And it turns out there's been like 4 or 5, I think. Yeah, like Bancor, this one, Unfi, Super, AKT, which I didn't sell the second double on. And I think Rune. Anyway, this one's ripping. So I'm just riding that one along for the ride. And then, yeah, Rune, another great W. I mean, perfect W. Didn't give it a retest. If you weren't there to buy that W, which I was actually buying back here, just buying against the lows, which ironically came in right at the W level, but you would have had to be paying attention that week to get filled there. But it's a whole week. Perfect example of what happens on the other end of a W. And I don't know. Now I'm just rambling on. So I'll just leave it at that. I wanted to brag about some of my high flyers lately. And I guess I'll leave it at that. So thanks for joining me. It's another 2-hour session. Watch out for lower hose, as Dominique says in the chat. And I don't know. Thanks for joining me. Hope you guys are taking advantage of this crypto rally in some form. And if not, just be patient and let's try to get along on the next rally. I'll be doing this every Tuesday to highlight the names like the ones I just went through that are sitting there. I don't know if they're going to work or not, but like if they do work, you'll hear me talking about doubles in a couple months or whenever that is. And if you didn't take it, then you won't have the doubles. So I can't tell you what to buy or how to spend your money. This is what I'm doing. But I am going to try my best to just highlight the good names that seem likely going forward. And I do think we're closer to we're definitely a lot closer to some potential bull market than we have been all year. And with a little luck, we'll get a nice dip to reload or buy or whatever, wherever you are in your personal plan. And so I'll be doing this. And of course, if you want to just tune in on Sundays, we're doing the same thing too. We're focused mostly on the like top 100 market cap coins for that show, but we've built a nice, simple, easy plan. It's a little more aggressive actually than this. It's not waiting for W's, at first. We were just kind of buying levels like this trade actually. I just stepped in and bought reload zone here. Just based on friends' recommendations, to be honest. I mean, I just nibbled but you can see how I, just right in the middle of the reload zone, I just went and grabbed some, went immediately underwater. It actually even took out the low. And then if I was patient, that's sort of kind of the road to financial freedom plan style. We're just kind of buying levels as price comes into cheap territory, bottom of the range kind of thing. And we're looking for this kind of move on the other end. And for that particular plan, we're focused on like top 100 market cap coins. And then for this show, I'm not staying so plan specific, but I'm just going to, I am in the sense that I'm following my KOBV plan where I'm just going to basically look for good location, OBV divergence or W. Just a W is enough for me. And then market structured W. And then I'm going to buy the W when I can. So if I can buy this on the breakout, I'm happy to. If I missed it like this, in this case, I'm going to draw my fibs, which is sort of where we are right now. And I'm going to look for lower prices to buy, which in this case, I wouldn't have gotten filled, with that strategy. I would have missed it. And that's just sort of, unfortunately, part of the game. So most of the names I'm talking about should probably we'll have that frame of mind on it. That's the sort of lens I'm looking at these things through. And then also, to be fair, like I said earlier, I'm getting more aggressive. So like in my plan, it specifically says that I can start knife catching, once we're in a more bullish environment. Now it's sort of hard to determine where do we go from bottoming phase to bull? It's sort of hard. It's almost going to be like more of a feel. That's why we show up every day. And that's why we're doing these shows. And that's why we talk about this shit every day and work on this every day. Cause we don't know when that happens, but we'll start to get a sense of when we've left the bottoming phase. It's like getting damn close. It might have happened already. It's hard to say. It's like hard to say. And then you look at something like this and you're like, well, there's definitely always a bull somewhere. But once we see the majority of the market having those kind of saucer bottoms and starting to leave that area, that's kind of when we'll start thinking that we're heading into a true uptrend, actually start trending higher. I don't know if we're actually trending higher in the broader market just yet. I mean, I showed you all those names that were just sitting at the W level, so those aren't trending higher yet. So anyway, I'll let you know though when I think that we're actually in a bull, and it's not going to be an exact day. But as we get more into that, then I'm more likely to just kind of hit levels as we get dips. But I'm not going to chase no matter what. So anyway, leave it at that. I hope you guys all have a good evening. If it's evening for you, you're welcome, Constantine. Thanks for joining me. And again, I guess sorry for talking 2 hours. I don't know. But I will be back tomorrow for the New York session. Join us if you're in our group. And if not, you can always find us at cryptotradersarena.com. You can join our free Discord and you could consider taking it a little deeper. If you want, if you do want to learn how to trade setups, then we are starting up another round of our Capua 1 training course, which would be like probably in January. We're limiting it to 20 members. So basically, as soon as we have 20, we're just going to start it. But we'll not let it drag on too long either. It'll basically be the beginning of the year. And of course, if you join that program, you are basically signing up for a year-long journey to learn how to do this. I mean, the course itself is, the curriculum's like 3 months just to learn these tools that I'm talking about, and also learn things like risk management practices, healthy risk management, and also learning how to build a plan, learning what setups are, learning, trying to get in the mindset of this, like thinking in probabilities mindset, where we're taking a series of trades and we're trying to use a statistical edge to give us, or use this, trying to find an edge, a statistical edge in the market that we can exploit over a series of trades. So we spend like 3 months talking about all that stuff. Then spend another month with a little bit more grind, and specifically where Paul and I both will just be watching. We're going to demand that, I have everybody's plans now. Everybody's got a plan working. They've identified setups that they kind of think they're interested in. We showed everybody a handful of setups and asked them to pick one or two that they wanted to focus on at first and build a plan around it. And then we'll spend the next month actually trying our best to hold everybody accountable and make sure they're taking trades. For small money, of course, we like to do our $100 challenge. We don't really do paper trading per se. We like to have a little bit of skin in the game so that you can really get a feel for the execution part, because it's such a huge part of it. So paper trading is all fine, but like you're not actually taking the trade. And so, the $100 challenge is a great way to actually take trades, but with the amount of money that's not going to break your bank, and you can sort of explore and learn this sort of idea, how to manage your risk. And then after that month, there's still 8 more months of just being in the group, and we're going to expect everybody to continue participating. It is a lot of work. There's no way you can do this without doing the work. So we can teach you and show you and try to be good role models and try to hold you accountable. But at the end of the day, if you're not willing to put in that time and effort, it's just not going to work. Because at the end of the day, nobody can pull the trigger but you. And like I said, if you're trying to depend on somebody on YouTube to tell you when to pull the trigger, they're probably wrong, myself included. So, anyhow, join us for a year. Or if you're already an established trader and just want to, work with us, you can also just join our premium room. And of course, if you have like a full-time job, but you're still on the journey of trading and you don't necessarily have as much time maybe, or maybe there's other reasons, you could always consider our VIP group, which is a small group that is limited in number, but we basically, not we, Paul and Stefan work on that more than, not me, but where they're actually as a group identifying trades and taking the same trades, and they get a lot of special attention from Stefan and Paul as far as what trades they're taking. And so it's like, in that case, you still got to know how to do this, and you still have to know how to manage your risk and pull the trigger for yourself, but you do have a lot more, lot of trade ideas basically. And that group's doing pretty well. And it's actually kind of cool to see all those VIP members become killer traders on their own, which is sort of the goal. And hopefully once you do get to that status, you could be like Carol or somebody and be a gladiator, where we just basically are trying to build trading gladiators, which is kind of dorky, but also totally fun. I kind of like the whole gladiator idea. And of course, Capua 1 is actually, I scooped that name up off of reading, I don't know, Capua was the first gladiator school in the Capua Coliseum, I guess it was. I don't remember the exact, and so that's kind of where we got the name for Capua 1 and 2, which is up and coming. It's a gladiator school. We're trying to teach you how to be a gladiator in the world of trading. So that's kind of what we're going for. And really our end goal is just to have a bunch of people trading along with us. So if that interests you, feel free to reach out to me or Paul, and we'll get you on your way. And with that said, I'll just say bye to everybody, and I'll see you guys tomorrow if you're around the group. And if not, I'll see you on Sunday for our next YouTube show. So take care, everyone. Oh, and I do want to just mention Paul's new YouTube thing too, where he is doing a quick video, like not 2 hours, but like 2 minutes a day, that he's calling a trade one a day from Paul J, I think it's called. And he's just trying to find a THG idea trade idea in crypto every day and posting that. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested. Of course, that's using our THG indicator, which also comes with the Cappy One. That comes for life with that, and also is available to premium members. And that's just our trend following indicator that's very profitable, actually, especially in ripping markets. So that's it. So we're offering a lot of content for the general public, and then of course we're there every day in our Discord room. So now I finally swear I'm saying bye. I'll talk to you guys all later. I'm going to hit the disclaimer button because I've not given any financial advice or life advice about lower hose and stuff. That's not good advice either. But I'll talk to y'all later. So take care.